Hey everybody, I am going to record and I'm going to do this live also on Facebook um, because I want to um, sharing with people how to find a coach. I never understood, I don't understand Facebook. I'm learning, I'm really learning how to use it. Never really understood it, but I'm going to go in here. But hello, Yvette Kelly Fields. I am your person. Here we go. Hi everybody, this is Yvette Kelly Fields. I am coming to you straight from the Yvette Kelly Field Studios, which is in my bedroom. As you can see, you got a TV and everything else. We got to work on the background. But I had a interesting conversation today with a former client who I always say to people, if you've worked with one coach for a couple of years and they've helped you along the way, and then it's like you're ready to go to the next level, it's time to try a new coach. So I'm talking with a person who I've done some coaching with, and they're like, I think I'm ready for we finished up the work together, and we were chatting, and they had an opportunity to go to a conference, and as a part of that conference, they will get some free coaching. And it's like, I think I want to take up the offer for the free coaching. It's like, you definitely should. And I said, hopefully you'll meet somebody who is as minimally as equally as good as me, but even better so, better than me. I hope you meet somebody who is better than me, quite honestly. And the reason I say that is because you want to, when you're trying to elevate, if you start with one person and they get you to here, you don't want to go backwards. And there's nothing worse, especially whether it's free or paid, getting another coach and then they don't have anything new to share and you spent money and resources and you're just like, okay, this is just a waste of my time. Anything you're telling me, I've already learned. And I've had that experience. I've had that experience where an organization I was with got a coach that was supposed to be there to help all the development officers. Going to have this coach that could help you get past certain, challenges you may be having. And I remember someone saying, "Well, Yvette, you don't need any more coaching. You should be good." And I was like, "Well, no, I believe in resources. I believe in coaching. I would love to. I'd love to have another coach. Why not? It's free." And they were a lovely person. They were nice. They were a nice person. But overall, they just weren't a good coach. They weren't. There was nothing I gained from being coached by them. Um, and, I think they did a contract with them for maybe a year. Nobody had a good experience. And the person wasn't a bad person. They just couldn't help any of us. And everybody kind of like, it feels like a waste of my time. So I don't want people to go out and secure another coach and then find themselves, I'm going to put this a little bit closer this way, and find themselves with somebody who just really cannot help them level up. Coaching should help you go from point A to point B, and a good coach sits down and talks to you about what your needs are, and then using a framework that they've gained, take you from point A to point B. So in my book, I talk about the first time I had to get a coach. I outline in the book about what happened that led me to have to get a coach in the first place. And when I finally had to get a coach, my process. So I'm going to read a little bit from my book, The Five Coaches That Every Nonprofit Leader Should Own. And I'm going to read a little bit from this book about about what I started to do when I had to go get a coach. Okay. So I have here, finding a coach is not easy. When I began looking just 9 years ago, this at the time when I was talking about this, the landscape was quite different. Social media was not flooded with executive coaching ads. You didn't scroll and compare. You asked around. You relied on word of mouth or searched only a few websites that listed credentialed coaches. Many of the coaches I found online were well outside my price range, so I did what most leaders do when they're serious. I asked for referrals. The person I reached out to never returned my calls or emails. So just adding to this, I asked for referrals. I had one friend, she gave me three. First one did not return my phone call. The second one responded once, then disappeared. With the third, I made it all the way to a contract. I was ready to move forward until her final email arrived with the wrong name in the agreement. To some, this might be minor. To me, it wasn't. It signaled a lack of attention to detail at the very moment trust was being established. The contract had already been copied by another client and not carefully reviewed or tailored to our work together. On top of that, she attempted to upsell additional services before we had even begun. It was enough to make me pause and ultimately walk away. So, I don't know why it is when I start talking, like I get something in my mouth and I'm like picking it out. So when I first went looking for a coach, the person who referred me to these ladies, they were all women, was a person who was already doing coaching, but she wasn't doing the kind of coaching I needed. But she had been involved with these women and had recommended them. And I was like, okay, I trust what you have to say. And I trust if you recommended these people that these are the people that can actually help me. So it was disappointing when the first one never responded. The second one responded once, never again. And then the third one, when she did respond, I mean, it was great. We had a phone conversation and talked. I told her what I needed. And she said, oh, yeah, I can, she talked really great. But when I made the point in the book about how she sent this contract, and the contract had like, it was like you had my name at the top of your vet, and it was email. I was laying out everything. But then, like, the second paragraph is when it got there. It was like, instead of saying Yvette, our next steps would be, it said like Teresa or Marcy or Mary, something like that. And I was just like, oh my gosh, this must be a formatted email. She cut and paste. I don't have a problem with that. That's common. You're working on something, you have a contact, you cut and paste, but she didn't take time to go through and read the email before she sent it back to me so that she can make sure, okay, it says Yvette throughout the whole email. Her lack of attention towards that just, and it could happen. It happens to all of us. But I was at a situation where I had to have a coach. I mean, my job was dependent on me getting an executive coach. I had to have a coach. It wasn't even a question. So I couldn't just get anybody. I'm like, I need somebody to get me out of hole. I need somebody who's at the top of their game. You need to be further along than me, because let me be clear. I felt like I was really far along as an executive director and as a leadership person. Like, I felt I was teaching other people. There is no way you could tell me I needed a coach. So if I'm going to get a coach, I'm not going to get somebody who's average. I'm not going to get somebody who I'm just another check. I need somebody who's serious about my personal elevation and about my leveling up. So that was what I was thinking when I said I needed a coach. And when those first three failed to come through, then I felt stuck. So then this is what I did next. Okay, keep listening. So I have been collaborating with another executive director of a partner organization on a new program. One of their supporters hired an executive coach. Her name was Mary Connors of Accelerating Leaders. She was there to assist with vetting the project and its viability. The coach was related to one of the largest foundations in the area, so I knew they were quality. One day after our meetings, I approached Mary and asked her if she could recommend someone, as I knew their schedule was probably full, and quite honestly, their fee was way out of my range. Our center did not have that level of funding. Well, tell me what you need, Mary asked. Well, I said, apparently all my skills garnered over the years have not prepared me to lead, or so I was told. And she said, told by who? So I went into this whole story a bit, reliving the moment, and my eyes watered, but again, no tears dropped because I was traumatized from even the whole conversation about the fact that I needed a coach. Um, Looking at me incredulously, she said, I'll coach you, I'll help you. That was her words. And her fee was a nice fee, but she gave me a little bit of a discount, and she allowed me to pay it over time. And I went and started. Thank you, Michael Wilson. Thank you. And so I went and I started working with her. We worked together for 6 months. And within the first meeting, I could see, I mean, the blinders just fell off. I had no, I just didn't even have a clue. When she just started like mapping out some stuff, I was like, wow, okay. I didn't see it. And no one told me to see it. The person who said you needed coaching, their thing was like, you wouldn't go along with what we wanted you to do. And somebody needs to teach you to be obedient. I mean, just straight up, that's just what it came down to. And I think they thought if I went through a coaching program that the coach would say, oh, Yvette, you just should have done what they told you to do. And she didn't do that at all. She said, oh, I can see right here where you were focused in this direction. And so you missed this. And this is what allowed this to happen. And that's how you ended up here. We need to change your focus. And she helped me to start to see more big picture of how to view things, more about how to manage personalities, and also to think more sharply about how to troubleshoot situations where you have a key partner that you need to maintain a relationship with, how to have conversations in a way that you're not like flipping out. Because that's kind of how I went. When this thing started happening and I started seeing something shift, I just was like, I don't understand. I don't get it. And I started doing the stuff you would do. I just started going to this defensive mechanism, trying to get people on my side, trying to do all this other stuff. It did not work. It was an epic fail, which is how I got to this point. Like, well, you just need to get a coach. And she was like, you just didn't have the right focus and you didn't have the right strategy. You needed a different plan. And she laid out the plan and showed me how to manage that in the future. Changed everything. The problem I was dealing with resolved itself within a couple of months. It literally just resolved itself. And then I was able to go on from there and build. I really, really was. So today I was talking with the colleague when I just mentioned about getting a coach. And I told her, I understand, you and I worked together. You did great with me. I hope the next coach you get, especially if somebody's offering for free through another program, I hope they're as good as me or better. And I said to her, you need to vet the coach. Now her plan is like, I'm going to meet and have coffee here and have a conversation. And I'm going to say to her, and I'm going to share that here, when you're looking for a coach, here's what I encourage you to do, because this is what I did. And I talk about how I identified the coaches that I needed for my stuff. I identified that in my book. So if you want more in-depth knowledge about coaches and looking at how I did it around my professional coach, my health coach, my money coach, my relationship coach, my spiritual coach, you can read it in the book. So I talked about how I got referrals, and then from there I vetted. You can get people to refer all day long. The vetting process is what makes the difference. First thing you want to look at is credentials. If you actually get in contact with a coach, what are your credentials? What do you have that makes you a coach that I can spend money with and I can get results? Somebody who just says, oh yeah, I'm a coach, I'm a life coach, I'm an executive coach. If they can't tell you what credentials they have to back that up, I wouldn't go with them. I just wouldn't. They might have been somebody who just retired from their old job and someone said, you're so good at that, you should go be a coach. And they're like, oh, that sounds great. Let me just start coaching. Hey, I'm a coach now. I retired from my old job. Now I'm a coach. I can help anybody. I say, who helped you to formulate your framework for coaching so that you knew how to coach people properly? So that you know how to take somebody who's never done this work, who's looking for somebody to help them do the work. And you can say, look, I know how to get you to where you're trying to go. What program did you go through to even know how to coach somebody? That's the first question. Tell me your background in coaching. Like, how did you get started and what's your credentials? The second thing is like, tell me about the kind of people you coach, because you need to know, do you coach the kind of client like me? And it's not you're looking for somebody to go along with you or somebody that you can manipulate. You're looking for somebody who can actually get you, whoever you are, to the next level. One person might be able to coach a certain kind of person because they're very familiar with that kind of personality, that culture, that background, and they're great at helping them. But another group of people, they can't help because they have no lived experience to be able to speak to certain things. They have no ability to connect with you where you are. So their coaching is not going to help you. So you have to ask the question, who else have you coached? And just tell me what you're able to help them do. Um, Third, ask them about their coaching style. Like, do you prefer to do in person? Are you virtual? Is your coaching like weekly, monthly? Is it all online? Do we ever meet? Um, and then you go next things like, give me kind of the outline of how your coaching works. Like, how many months? What am I looking at? What can I expect to receive for this? Price should be the last thing you ask for when it comes to a coach. Price does play a role, but I say it's the last thing because a good coach is worth the cost. You will make back your money with a good coach. I was able to pay her, have more personal growth and professional growth 10 times over. So much so that by the time I got done with coaching, I knew that I could finish my time as an executive director where I was and then go back to the passion that I really love, which was fundraising. And when I did that, I started having people call me and say, Yvette, you did such a great job as an ED, raising money. Can you help me? Can you show me? Can you coach me? And I was like, I can show you. I can show you how I did it. And when I first started helping people, I did it all volunteer. I didn't, people say, Yvette, I need to raise some money. I was like, let's just meet. I was 100% at that point in my life. Um, I was to pick your brain. Can I pick your brain? Yes, you can pick my brain. And you can pick my brain for a cup of coffee. You can pick my brain for lunch, dinner. I was that person for a number of years. And during that time, I started creating a framework for, okay, how do I help people? How do I take my brain for raising money and managing situations and put it into the other person's brain? I'm literally like, how do I take what's in my head and put it into their head so that they can do the work the way I do the work, but in their own way? I didn't want to make anybody a mini Yvette. I want them to be the best of what they were. So that's what I learned how to do. And when I decided, when I got an opportunity, because a friend called me up and I had a major opportunity, my first paid client, to say, hey, I got this nonprofit and they need help raising money. And it was, they were trying to raise $3 million, and they're like, they need help. They have like about 1.5 million, 2 million, but that's last 1.5 million. They can't find, they don't have the other prospects, and all of them, none of them have ever run a nonprofit. They're all business owners who formed a nonprofit and they need help. And this person was like, how much do you charge? And at this time, I had just been doing volunteer coaching, learning, testing stuff. But when I decided that I was going to actually be paid for the coaching, I got a coach. I went and got a coach. My first coach that I used was Nicole Walters. She's the first. It was called 1K one day, 1K one day. Her whole program was about how to properly coach people to be successful in whatever their venture is, and then how to properly price the coaching. That's what her coaching was. And then I joined, my next program I joined was one called Fractional Fundraising Coaching with Cindy Wegman. And that was a program that I went through for about 1.5 years that taught me how to coach nonprofit, taught me how to do fractional fundraising with nonprofit organizations. So coaching the ED around raising money, helping them to raise money, being a person who helps do implementation. So I coach and I implement. But I hired 2 coaches. I paid for that as a part of my business because I wanted to be great. Somebody's asking you to help them raise $1 million or $2 million. I can't just say, well, I've done it over here as Yvette. I need the the ability to take what I've done over here and translate it so I can help you do it. And it's a very different skill set. There's a lot of people who can do work who don't know how to teach other people how to do the work. And I worked to learn how to do that because I saw how powerful it was for me. And when people are calling you and saying, hey, can you coach me? I want to do a good job. I keep a professional coach. I keep one. I'm going to say that again. I keep a professional coach. I pay real money to make sure I have access to support so that if I'm working with a client and and I'm like, oh, I don't know how to help them, I got a coach to go talk to. If someone says, I want to be a coach, they should know you should be able to get their credentials, their referrals. You should find out where they got their framework from. And you should find out exactly how their coaching would help you. In my book, I recommend several coaches. One of the people I recommend for executive coaching is Felithia Charlton. She's not only is she a friend, she's a phenomenal coach. When she first started coaching, she already had a significant background in the work that she was doing because she had already led large organizations. She had already been in leadership positions, and she was very credentialed. I mean, she has like a number of degrees, but she didn't just let that be the thing that carried her coaching. She actually went and got certified through a credential program. She had to do hours of not only learning but also coaching, and she has a framework that she uses. She can literally take people from where they are to here following her coaching. So I would recommend her all day long. And I've seen the results because my daughter went through her coaching program. I have other people that's gone through her coaching program, and she has now started coaching other people so they can be coaches. She's phenomenal. So she's somebody I would recommend all day long. If you're like an executive director, like I need somebody to help me be better at being an executive director, I would recommend myself. And then I have other people who do executive director coaching because I might not be a fit for you, but I want to be able to provide you with other names that might be a fit. Just when you're looking to get coaching, it is important that you get the right person to help you be the best you. It is so important. And I also want to say, don't be embarrassed about needing help. You've taken on a role or a position that you have never had before. I don't care if you was the board chair of a nonprofit. I don't care if you was the deputy director and you worked with the ED who was there with you for 20 years. And you're like, we worked side by side. I have seen people work side by side with an ED for an extensive period of time. The ED retires, they take their job, and within 1 year, they're like, this is nothing like I thought it was going to be. Things are different when you are in the seat. You cannot just assume because you were in proximity to the position that you can take that role and just get in there like, oh, I got it. So I will tell you three things I guarantee you will change when you take on a leadership role anywhere. This is not just a nonprofit executive director. I've seen this in other roles. One, the staff that worked great with the last ED may not work well with you. There are a lot of people who take on an executive director job, inherit the staff, and they're like, this staff is a mess. Their staff worked great with the last ED. They may not work great with you. Some will stay, some will probably leave. And I will tell you, I've seen when a new ED comes in, you'll be amazed at how many people say, well, I'm leaving too. So you come in, you think you got a full staff, 5 people give you their resignation day one. That's the first thing that's going to happen. Staffing almost automatically changes. Second thing that happens, support and relationships shift. People will treat you differently than they treated the ED. You can't just assume that because they work great with the ED as a funder or as an ally, that they're going to automatically shift their trust to you. Some will, some won't. Some people have been waiting for the ED to leave, retire, to make a change. They wanted to cut funding. They wanted to reduce funding. Some cases, they wanted to give money. They didn't like the last ED. You came in, we want to start new, and we want to give money. So second thing that's going to change is somehow the funding or partnership is going to change. And then the third thing, your life is going to become fuller and temporarily more chaotic. because there's so much you did not know, so many things you have to learn. There is just a tremendous amount of learning you'll have to go through. You have to set up your files. You got to set up your system. You got to set up your calendar. You got to get used to the admin, setting up your appointments. All of a sudden, people who never talked to you before start talking to you. You're in a position of power. They want to have conversations. They want to meet for lunch. New opportunities come to you. Some people are trying to cut ties. Your life is chaotic for at least the first couple of years because you got to get a rhythm and you got to find your pace. You can have mentors, you can have really great board members, amazing staff. But if you don't have somebody walking alongside you that you can call up, you can't, it's not a good idea to call up staff if something is happening. Like payroll looking shaky, it's not a good idea to start calling staff. The person you need to call is your CFO. And if the CFO is trying to give you advice, you can call your coach and say, look, this is a situation. Here are my options. This is what I'm thinking. What do you think? I can tell you as a coach, I've had those conversations with people about here's what's happening with the money. Here's what's happening with the board. Our 501c3 we just found out got revoked. We didn't even know it. I've had that conversation a couple of times. That is not an uncommon thing. This partner pulled out. They promised us this money and the money's not coming. I've had those conversations. And I say, okay, here's how you can navigate. Here's how you can do this. You'll be amazed at how many people I said, do you have a lawyer? No, we don't have a lawyer. Okay, number one thing you need is a lawyer. Flat out. Because you're about to navigate through some waters that you need legal counsel. The number of people who talk about financials, I'm like, well, who's your finance person? Oh, we got a contract person. Are they a CPA? No. Okay, you need somebody, because if you don't have somebody to tell you, you're not going to know. And a lot of times people sit and they just get frustrated and then they quit. They quit because they're like, I'm frustrated. I talked to my mentor. He couldn't help me or she couldn't help me. I couldn't talk to my staff. I'm trying to make decisions. I'm reaching out to other folks who are nonprofit leaders and I'm getting all this different kind of advice. Get a coach. Somebody who's already ran a nonprofit, done it successfully. If you're in a business, somebody who's already successfully launched a business in your industry and did it well, get a coach. It will help you. It will save your sanity. And make sure you vet the coach. Here's one last tip before I get off. If you have the opportunity, because in today's times, like I said, things are way different now than when I was looking for a coach. There's no end of people with ads. I'm a coach. There's no end of it. If someone is online saying, I know how to help you be better at running your nonprofit, raise more money, in most cases, they have something that's free that you can access. They either do a lot of their videos that are free on YouTube or they do Facebook Lives. If their advice for free helps you, if you listen to what they say and you take any of that advice and implement it and it helps you, that gives them one more leg up for you to consider hiring them as a coach. Because if the free stuff is helping you, then the paid stuff is going to be great. And even if the paid stuff is just as good, then you feel like, well, I owe you anyway because you've helped me. Many people, I looked at the free first. Mary Connors came to me because she was already working for a credible organization, and I knew that organization vetted very well. And I was shocked that I could get her because I really didn't expect her to say, I'll take you on. I thought she'd like, I'll recommend somebody. But I will tell you, if somebody can give you advice for free and it helps you, then it's like, okay, let me pay. And be willing to pay. Do not be cheap about this. This is your career. This is your personal life. How much are you worth? How much are you worth? Always say that to yourself. I'm worth everything. I tell myself that all the time. I'm worth the investment. I am worth the investment. All right. That's what I have to share. This is how you should go about vetting a coach for yourself. All right. Y'all have a good night.